Exercise 12. We begin by going to File, Open. Search for your SolidWorks Advanced folder, Sample Files, and find the Exercise 12 folder. At first you may not see anything inside there. This is because we're actually going to be working on a DXF and a DWG file today. So what I'd like you to do is under Files of Type, where it says SolidWorks Files, hit the little arrow to the right of that, and you'll get a pull-down menu. These are all the translators that are available inside SolidWorks. We're just going to be focusing on DXF and DWG today. DWG is a native AutoCAD format, typically a two-dimensional format. We'll go ahead and select DWG, and you should find Exercise 12. Go ahead and select it and hit Open. The first thing you'll notice is that you could select the method to open the DXF or DWG file. You could edit/view in Dwg Editor. The Dwg Editor is a separate program, very similar to AutoCAD. It's just for two-dimensional modification or creation of drawings. We're not going to be using that today. There's also the option of creating new SolidWorks Drawing. And this is convert into SolidWorks entities. We could actually import it into a SolidWorks drawing file, which is a 2D format, and then we could actually copy and paste it and utilize it in 3D. The other option is import it into a new part, and this will bring the drawing, the two-dimensional elements, into one of the planes for us, most likely the front plane, and from there we could actually start utilizing it and sketch with it. Typically that way is nice, but it can be rather sloppy at times. But they both have their benefits and their drawbacks, which we'll discuss later. What we're going to do today is we're going to start off by just creating it in a new SolidWorks drawing. So I'm going to hit the next option down at the bottom, and here we can see a preview of the drawing, and you can also see the layers on the left hand side. Now we can actually have all layers selected, so it will bring those all in, or we could select for the sheet format. That means that we could actually drop them in on the sheet format and use it for possibly a template, or layer selected from the drawing sheet, which is actually the top level, and that's what we want in this case. We could uncheck certain ones that we know we don't want. Maybe we don't want to see the template, or we want to turn off the cross hatching, things like that. In this case we'll leave them on, and I'll show you inside SolidWorks how you could turn those on and off. There's also some options here to zoom up to specific areas if you want to interrogate the print even closer. Zoom in and out, zoom to fit. You could rotate, pan. What we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and hit the next option. Here we could select the different type of paper size perhaps we want to drop it on. SolidWorks tries to measure what it sees and drop it correctly on the proper size sheet. Sometimes it gets it right, sometimes it might be a little off, depending if it's a custom sheet, perhaps. We will actually just leave all these things the same. We know this one is in inches, so we will leave that the same as well. As for the X and Y positioning, we'll leave it at the current default. And the sheet scale, again, perhaps you know that this drawing is a different scale. You might want to adjust for that right now. In this case, I know this one is 1:1, so we'll leave it at that. And next hit Finish. What it proceeds to do is it imports the drawing, and you can see it on a SolidWorks sheet here. Now if we want to actually modify this, first of all I'm going to turn off the Command Manager by right-clicking on any of the top icons here and deselect Command Manager. This separates the sketch tools from the drawing tools. Drawing tools are on the left, sketch tools are on the right. One tool that I want to use and actually show you in this case is another option, and I'm going to right click up at the top here and find it's called Line Format. It's located right here. You select Line Format, and it should bring up this toolbar. On this toolbar we have options like layer properties, line color, line thickness, line style, color display mode. You could turn off the colors if you like in that case. With layer properties is what we're truly interested in here, so I'm going to select layer properties. And similarly to how we saw them earlier when we imported the drawing, we can adjust the layers here too. In this case, we know we don't want the template. We don't want cross-hatching. We do want the geometry, but we really don't need the annotations, nor do we need the dimensions. Maybe we could leave those on, but let's turn them off right now. Let's just clean it all up and hit OK. I'm going to go ahead and drag this over and drop it on the left. Now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to interrogate the geometry that we have, and depending upon if you trust this geometry or not, you can actually use it, and that's what we're going to do in this case. We trust the source that they made this accurate, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and grab some of the geometry. In this case, I want to grab this center line and this profile from the section view, and I just drag rectangle around it, and it's actually not the rectangle sketch tool. This is just, I don't have any sketch tools selected. I just select the geometry this way. And you could hit Control C on your keyboard, or you could even go up to Edit and select Copy. Now what we need to do next is we need to go ahead and start a new part file, because we're going to drop this information into a part file for ourselves. So I'm going to go to New, I'm going to select Part, and hit OK. And then we select the plane that we want to drop it in on. In this case, this is actually a section view. So theoretically, it's on the right plane. So why don't we go ahead and select the right plane from the feature tree on the left, and then hit Control V as in Victor, which is the fast key or shortcut key for paste. You can also go to Edit and select Paste from there as well on the pull downs. Now if we zoom out with the scroll, we'll eventually see our geometry. It's up at the top right corner, and I'll rotate around. The reason for this is actually, if you notice in relation to the origin, if we go to a right side view and we see the origin, it's actually, the origin was actually the bottom left corner of the drawing sheet that we were working on, so it brought it into relation to that. What we want to do is actually edit that sketch, and what we'll do is we'll locate it over here on the origin. So to do that, we just right click on the sketch in the feature tree or any element of it on the view screen, and you'll find Edit Sketch as an option. Once you select Edit Sketch, now you could actually go ahead and select your geometry, move it, and here's how you want to do it. You click and drag a fence around all the geometry as such, and it will highlight in green. You'll notice a convenient point located in the center of the geometry there. You're not always going to be this lucky to have that, but in this case it is the center, and we're going to drag that over to the origin. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to hold the Control key down, grab that point with the left mouse button to press, and don't let go, and just drag it over, and then we'll drop it on the origin. Now I'm going to release Control before I drop it, and then I can release the mouse button. Now if I hit Fit, or the F key, zoom to fit, we now see that we're locked into the origin here. Okay, from this point we could actually go straight to a Revolve boss base, but I want to show you a little something extra that's not in the manual. And for example, perhaps we want to check what types of constraints on here. If we check it out right now, you'll see that there are virtually no constraints. There might be one here, and it's a coincident relationship that's fixed on the origin. If you want to use this geometry and make it usable as though it was created inside SolidWorks, you can do that by going to Tools, Relations, and there's an option Constrain All. Now you may notice currently that option is not even selectable on my system. The reason for that is if there are any relations whatsoever on the sketch that you're working on, it will deactivate this. So we have to remove the relations. And there's only one that I showed you earlier, and that's this point. So we could just select where the origin is, and we'll see there's a coincident relationship. We could go ahead and select that and hit the delete key on our keyboard. And now it should be cleared out. If you want to double check if there's any additional relationships, you can always do that. Over here on the right, you'll find the little set of eyeglasses over here, and it's called Display Delete Relations. You can select that option, and on the left hand side it will show you all relations that are in that sketch. As you can see, it's blank. But if there was something on there that you want to remove, you could just right click and you would find an option Delete All. But now we're ready to go back to Tools, and we'll go select Relations, and there is Constraint All. It's now selectable. Let's go ahead and click on it. As soon as you do that, you'll see that 12 relations were added automatically to the sketch. Let's see what some of these relationships are. We could select different entities, and look at that. We have a horizontal, we have a tangent. Over here we have another tangent relationship. And if you want to see them all at one time, you could go and click on the Display Delete Relations option again, that little set of eyeglasses at the right side, and you can see all the relations that it added. Whatever it could find that it could add, it added it automatically. Now let's take it one step further. You can actually add dimensions. You could go to Tools, Dimensions, and there's an option here, Auto Dimension. In this case, we could add them manually if we want to take the time, or we could select Auto Dimension, and we could select a horizontal and vertical dimension scheme. There's chain, baseline, and ordinate. In this case, we're going to go with baseline for our dimensions, and we could select the point at which we want them both to start. In this case, it automatically selected the point because that was the last thing we had, right at the origin. If we want that, that's fine. Otherwise, we could actually select, like for example, instead of the point, we could select this line, and perhaps maybe we might want to select something other than the origin as the baseline for this as well. But that, we'll go ahead and just use it as is. I think that should work out okay. So let's go ahead and hit the green check mark. And it went ahead and added all the dimensions. It says the sketch is still underdefined, and at times there's entities that it just is unable to add. And if you want, you could actually go through and hunt for them. But at this time, let's just leave it as is. Looks pretty good. And we will proceed to revolve this. So now I'm going to go to Revolve Boss Base on the left-hand side and select it. And we can see it's generating our wheel. Hit the green check mark and hit Zoom to fit. And now you have the bulk of the wheel finished. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to go back to the drawing because we want to take those slots that were in there and put them in here. So there's the control. If you hold the control key and hit the tab key when you have additional documents up, it will toggle through those documents automatically, just like I did now. It's control, hold the control key down, and just hit the tab once or twice, or however many documents you have to toggle through till you see the one that you want. The other option is just go to Window, and you'll see actually Drawing 1 and Part 1, depending upon what you're working on. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom out here, and now we could actually see here is our geometry that we're interested in grabbing. These are tangent edges, so we don't necessarily want to grab those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on one of the inside areas of this edge, and we'll find Select Chain. Go ahead and select Chain, and it will select just that little groove there. What's nice about this design is that you'll see that there's an outside radius that follows the center point. So we have a nice locator there. Again, you're not always going to have this with geometry, but here we go. Next step is to hit the Control C, which is to copy it. Then hold down Control and hit Tab to go to the, actually hit the green check mark here. Hit Control Tab, and it will bring you back to the 3D model. Now we select the front plane and hit Control V to paste it. if we hit the F key for zoom to fit, we could see our geometry is floating above the part. Again, it's in relation to where the origin is on the drawing. Now we'll repeat the same steps that we repeated earlier to locate it. First of all, I'm going to go to a front view orientation. I'm going to right click on the sketch that I want to edit and find Edit Sketch. I'm going to group select the geometry, and I'll proceed to hold Control and drag that center point to the origin. So let's do that now. Grab the Control key, the left mouse button, grab that center point, drag it over and lock it in to the origin. Release the Control key first, and then release the mouse button. And it will copy and paste this for us. Now if you want to continue to add the constraints and things like that that we did earlier, that's fine. For review, we'll do that one last time here. Again, remember we have to remove any constraints, so we select that center point, find the coincident relation, and delete it. Hit the delete key on the keyboard, or you could right click in that box, hit delete all. The next thing is we want to go to Tools, Relations, Constrain All. Added 4 relations for us. And if you want, you could even go to Tools, Dimensions, Auto Dimension. And you can make it that point again. And now it's fully constrained. Now we could hit Extrude Cut, and you could select Through All. Now remember, Through All is just through from where the sketch starts, which is in the center. So we have to select Direction 2 down here at the bottom left, and make sure that says Through All as well. Hit the green check mark, and it cut through. Next thing we want to do is add those fillets. And if you go back, you could look at the fillet radius on the drawing. In this case, it's 0.25. Select the inside edges and hit the green check mark. Now we could finish the drawing by creating a pattern like we normally would in SolidWorks. Select the circular pattern, go to View, and select Temporary Axes for an axis for the patterns. Select the pattern axis right in the center here. Select Equal Spacing on the left, and then you want 5 patterns, and hit the green check mark. In this case, I discovered that I made an error. It actually is 0.125 for the radius. You could look here and you'll see that this is incorrect. So just double click on the surface and change it to 0.125. And now we should be able to continue on with by selecting our pattern axis, equal spacing, and select the geometry that we want to copy. And make sure you set it to 5. The model is finished. If you'd like to turn off your temporary axes, go to View and turn off temporary axes. And you could go and save this now. You've just finished exercise 12.